Welcome to On My Way to Wealth, the podcast where busy Gen Xers can learn financial tips as they navigate life on their way to wealth. And now, please join your host, Luis Rosa.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of On My Way to Wealth. My name is Luis Rosa, and I'm your host. I hope everybody's doing well. Thank you for tuning in. Today, I want to talk to you about expecting a baby into your family and the things that you should do to prepare for such a wonderful event. So if you are an expectant parent or you're planning on having a baby soon, congratulations. It's a wonderful thing to bring new life into this world. And I just want to give you a couple of tips that you should be thinking about from a financial aspect so that when that baby does arrive, you are ready. There are so many unexpected things that can happen. So the better that you can plan ahead, the better that you will be when the baby finally gets here. So number one, you have to make room for new expenses in your budget. I'm a big believer of practice makes better. Practice makes perfect. Some people say, I say practice makes better. Think about it this way. You always see athletes practicing before they have a particular event, right? It's a big part of the entire thing is practice, so that you then, by the time the event gets here, you have done it several times over and over and over again so that you just become better and better. You should actually be doing the same thing. Before the baby gets here, you already know ahead of time that there are going to be expenses that you will have to add to your budget that you don't have in your budget today. So why not start practicing for those things? So even if you are just planning on having a baby and the baby's not on its way just yet, well, maybe you should start practicing because you want to see what that's going to be like before the event happens. You don't want it to be a complete shock to your life when the baby gets here. So make room in your budget for not just big ticket items, which obviously will happen. And I'll talk a little bit about just adding some of that to your fund for those things, but also the daily and weekly costs that you should anticipate, like diapers and formula and things of that sort. So sometimes I've sat down with my clients when they're ready to, get started on the process of buying a house, and I've had them practice paying the mortgage payment. So if they were paying $1,200 in rent and their new monthly mortgage payment was going to be $1,800, I would have them save that $600 difference every month. And that they did two things. Let's say they did that for 2 years. Number one, it showed them what it was like to live with that new mortgage payment without having their responsibility of doing so. And number two, if they were able to do it, that $600 a month over 2 years basically added to their fund for their down payment and closing costs. So I use the same concept when it comes to new babies. And obviously you're not going to have the answers because you won't know necessarily, but hopefully we can come close enough to have a certain amount of money that you can allocate in your budget for the new expenses, because you don't want to wait until the baby's here to then try and figure out how you're going to pay for these things. So why not start practicing now? So same concept that I use with my clients to help prepare to buy a house. Same thing here. You think you're going to spend $500 a month between formula and other expenses? Well, let's start saving that $500 a month while you plan for that baby. That way you learn to adjust if you need to. If the money isn't available to you right now, maybe we need to figure out what else you need to cut back on, maybe some subscriptions, maybe going out to eat less, so on and so forth, just so that you know that you have adjusted your budget, whether it's allocating other resources or cutting back on certain things or a combination of both so that you're ready. Number two, while you're doing that, that money could then be set aside for the larger ticket items, like purchasing a crib, for example. Those big ticket items like that. A lot of people do baby showers and things like that, and they end up getting a lot of the expenses for the upfront cost of having a baby paid for in that way, but you don't know if that's actually going to happen, and you can't really count on that. Right? So I'd suggest that you save your own money. If you happen to get a gift, perfect, then you have more money for unforeseen expenses later. Number two, you want to make sure that you build an emergency savings. Now, I always preach this to all of my clients, regardless of whether or not they're having a baby. But when you're having a baby, this is even more important. because there's so many unexpected expenses. My clients that have young babies, every time I sit down with them, there's a lot of things that always happen that you were not anticipating. And a lot of those things could even be medical expenses that aren't covered by your insurance. So you want to make sure that if you don't have an emergency savings, that you immediately start putting one together. Hopefully, you can take some of the money from stimulus payments if you're eligible. Tax season is around the corner. Take some of that tax refund or a combination of both. Start that budget, put that extra money into this emergency savings, because it's just a matter of time before you have some sort of unforeseen expenses for the baby, right? It's just going to happen. It's just a matter of when. So something to plan for. Number 3, and this is getting a little bit more into like financial planning aspect, is you want to make sure that you review your insurance. And this is going to affect several types of insurances that you have. Number 1 is going to be your health insurance. If you get insurance through your health, through your employer right now, perhaps adding that extra baby might cost you more. So you got to see what the plans are that are available to you. You might have only had a plan for you and your spouse. Now you got to get a family plan because you're adding a baby. So you have to anticipate that extra premium, which is going to make your take-home pay to be less, right? So we have to anticipate for that in the budget. Also, you're going to have prenatal care, so you have to figure that into the equation as well, and see what the coverage is that is offered through your health insurance. And the other thing is we have to now talk life insurance. Whether if you have one right now, it would be a great idea to sit down with a financial planner to see if the coverage that you have is in fact adequate. And if you don't have any, then you want to figure out how much coverage you do need, because now you have an extra mouth to feed. And maybe it was a lot easier when the baby wasn't here, but now that there is a baby and you want to have just security for that baby, and also for your spouse, if for some reason something were to happen to you, you want to make sure that they're taken care of. So something to speak to a financial planner about. You can visit letsmakeaplan.org and look for a certified financial planner professional in your area. So I highly encourage that you do that and just have a conversation, just to see where you are. And you might learn something that maybe you didn't think about that you should. Also, disability insurance. If you don't have that kind of coverage, that might be something you might want to start looking into when you're getting a new baby. And there's a lot of things that will change. For example, I always tell my clients every year to revisit certain things if they've had any changes, right? Your tax situation is going to change, right? As a result of you having that additional family member, right? Because it's going to be a dependent. You have to make sure that your beneficiaries are updated. So definitely look at that. You might have some 401ks or some accounts that you might want to update as a result of this new baby, right? So definitely consider those things. I know a lot of people don't like to think about their own death, and completely understandable. But, it's inevitable. It will happen, hopefully not for decades and decades, but you definitely want to have a plan for it. Another thing, too, that is tied into like the whole estate planning aspect of it is figuring out who you would like to be the legal guardian of your child if both you and your spouse were to die. Because if you don't designate that ahead of time, and the unfortunate event of you and your spouse passing away, and that baby then has to be assigned a legal guardian, and you don't want a court figuring that out for you, right? You want to make sure that you have that designated in advance. So that's one of the things that a financial planner can help you see where you're lacking and then point you in the right direction, maybe make a referral to an estate planning attorney, et cetera. So definitely take a look at that. Because that is a major thing that could have a long-lasting impact if you don't do the right planning around that. And the other thing is to prepare for either maternity or paternity leave. If you are an employee of a company, figure out what the benefits are that are available to you as far as family leave, whether it's through your state laws or through your employer's policies. You want to see what kind of paternity leave, maternity leave you have, how much you get paid, how much time can you take off. That's going to be major, because if you're going to have some reduction in your pay, the more important reason why you should have that emergency savings beefed up, right? Because you might need to dip into your savings during that time frame because maybe you won't be making the same amount of money, or if you're going to stay out longer than the amount allotted for your maternity or paternity leave, because there could be unforeseen circumstances. So you just want to plan ahead as much as possible. Obviously, you can't foresee everything, but the better prepared you are, the better you will be, the better the outcome. So make sure that you understand your employer's policies and state's laws in terms of paternity and maternity leave. And, the more reason to sit down with a financial planner. Again, this is super important. The decision to have a baby, it's not just a family decision in terms of you wanted to procreate and expand your family. You should really consider the financial aspects of it so that you can enjoy it too, right? Because, it's probably going to be life-changing already with your sleep schedule, employment, et cetera. You want to make it the least stressful as possible. So just to give you a little recap here, make room in your budget for new expenses, start practicing. So if the baby isn't here yet, start practicing as if you already had those expenses. That's going to help you because it's going to show you if you're in fact capable of doing this, number one. And if you're not, it's going to then open your eyes and say, you know what? I need to make some changes right now in order to be ready for this. So you'll learn exactly what you need to do by going through that process. Build up that emergency savings for sure, because there are going to be a lot of unforeseen expenses. Review your insurances, review your estate plan, so disability insurance, life insurance, beneficiaries, things of that sort, think about guardianship, all those things, be ready for it. And don't even get me started on college. Maybe that'll be a separate podcast, but at some point you're going to want to start thinking about that if you want to pay for your child's education. And then, just make sure that you understand the maternity and paternity leave requirements for your employer, their policies, and your state's laws. And obviously there's a lot more to this, but I feel like these 4 are really good, solid for you to get some good footing on your plan. All right. So as always feel free to reach out to me, Luis at onmywaytowealth.com. If you want to make an appointment with a certified financial planner professional, visit letsmakeaplan.org. You can always reach out to me as well if you interested in having an appointment with me. And as always, I'm here. So thank you all for tuning in. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to On My Way to Wealth. If you have any questions, please send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com. The information provided here is for information and education purposes only. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of myself, unless otherwise specifically cited. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by my firm or myself about other parties' information or accuracy or completeness. All information or ideas provided should be discussed in detail with a financial advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation.